Jeremiah 10 verse 14. Every man is brutish in his knowledge. All these people out here that you go to talk to, when you go up to them and speak with them with a kind voice and tell them that you have some of the most magnificent news that they would ever want to hear, and if they're a white Western European and say, did you know that you're a son or daughter of Yahweh God? They don't want to be. They want to be a Lutheran. Or they want to be a Catholic. Or they want to be a Unitarian. They don't realize that they are racially part of the family of Yahweh, and they are locked into a covenant that was given to Abraham, handed down to Isaac, handed down to Jacob and his sons and progeny. Is this correct? It was locked. It was sealed. Yahweh said, as I have done, no man can set it asunder.
That's right.
Now, every founder is confounded by a graven image. Ooh, those who worship images and stuff. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. Go read in the book of Jasher, the book of the upright. Go read there what Abraham did when he went into Terah's house, his father.
Right.
And he had a bunch of wooden statues hanging around. And his father would bring food into these statues every day. They're wooden statues. And he said to them, what are you doing? Well, he said, I'm feeding my gods. I'm feeding the Lutheran God, the Presbyterian God, the Baptist God, the Catholic God, the Methodist God. Come on, what else? Come on. Presbyterian God. Well, there's like 3,700 of them, right? And Abraham said to him, Father, these are wooden statues. They can't eat this food. Oh, he said, leave my gods alone. Just like they'll tell you, leave Judeo-Christianity alone. These 501c3, tax-exempt, government-controlled and orchestrated corporations.
Oops.
So his father went to work, because his father was a captain of the guard of Nimrod. Very powerful position.
That's right.
So Abraham strolls in there with a hatchet one day, takes the hatchet and carves up all the wooden idols. Walks out. His father comes home and said to him, what happened to my gods? What happened here? Abraham said, well, they must have fought over the food. And they fought themselves into pieces. Terah, his father, said, well, how can they fight when they're made of wood? And Abraham said, that's exactly correct, Father. For Yahweh our Father is not made of wood. He is a living God.
That's right.
Well, I want you to think about these things. Now, that there is no breath in them, these images, see? Jeremiah 10:15. They are vanity in the work of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. But the portion of Jacob Israel, the white Western European people, is not like them. For he is the former of all things, and Jacob Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name.
That's right.
Gather up your wares out of the land, O inhabitants of the fortress. For thus saith Yahweh in Jeremiah 10:18, behold, I will sling out the inhabitants of the land at this once, and will distress them, and that they may find it so. Woe is me for my hurt. Yahweh is hurt for what his people are doing. My wound is grievous, but I said, truly this is a grief, and I must bear it. Jeremiah 10:20, my tabernacle is spoiled, and all my cords are broken. My children have gone forth of me, and they are not. They are not with me no more. They're following other gods. There is none to stretch out my tent anymore and to set up my curtains. He's talking about the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
And there are none to enforce my law. Jeremiah 10:21. For the pastors have become brutish. Now, who has pastors? Let me see here.
That's something.
That must be Judeo-Christianity. And religion has become brutish.
There you go.
And have not sought Yahweh. Because they teach corporation edict. And they teach lies that, i.e. the Jews, the Turk-Mongolian DNA, alien species are God's people, of which is a lie. And they tell you that it's good to interracially mongrelize with diversity the blood, totally contrary to Yahweh. For that is a death sentence under the law of Yahweh.
Right.
Therefore they shall not prosper, and all their flocks shall be scattered. You see, they're closing these churches down everywhere, aren't they? Because nobody's going to them. And Yahweh has taken away the jobs and the money to finance the lies in those buildings every weekend. And now they're having to consolidate their churches because they haven't got people going. In England it's so bad. They've only got people 70 to 90 years old sitting in them, and none of the young people are going because they don't want to hear about it. There's a great falling away in there, isn't there? And who's doing this? Yahweh is doing this. And of course, to the Catholic Church, they're also consolidating, but they're paying out hundreds of millions and millions of dollars to pay off the children that their priest sexually molested. Which is the death penalty again, in the name of Yahweh. And it's a foreign nation, by the way, the Vatican. It's not just a church. It is a foreign nation. Now you see, you can't serve two masters.
That's right.
Yahweh said you cannot serve Yahweh or Mammon. You must serve one, you must hate one and love the other, or love one and hate the other. You can't serve two masters. And I say this, if you're Catholic and you're real proud of it, and you're proud of the Vatican, which is a nation, and the Holy See, Papa, is the what? Is the dictator and the high priest, the modern Nimrod of that nation, then go live in that nation.
That's right.
Is your allegiance going to be to a foreign nation called the Vatican? Or is your allegiance going to be to the United States of America and to Yahweh? Now I want you to think about this. Now I want you to think deep about this. Because you can't have your cake and eat it too. Again, Apostle Paul said when it comes between obeying the laws of Yahweh and of man, you had best obey Yahweh.
Right.
People say, oh, he's railing on the Catholics. No, I'm bringing up a definite fact. Oh, people want to get angry at me. Well, that's just too bad. They got angry at the disciples and threw them in jail too, didn't they? And what for? Insurrection. What was the insurrection of? Because the disciples were teaching the law of Yahweh. And they were against the Sadducees and Pharisees, of which you call modern religion and politics today, who are trying to sway the minds of the remaining true Hebrews in that part of the Mid-East from following Yahweh. See, even the Father told you. He said, what? Rend unto Caesar what's Caesar's and give unto Yahweh what's Yahweh's. But he didn't tell them they could have both. Think about this now. See? That's interesting, isn't it? You say, my gosh, I've never heard anything like this. This is new to me. This is like fresh water coming out of a new well with no fluoride in it. And my goodness, just imagine drinking water with no fluoride. You might even start to think correct. Well, but the pastors have become brutish in Jeremiah 10:21. We're in the old parchments in the Old Testament. Of course, you know there's no old and new. You know history in its own course of time. There's no broken discoursement of history. It's all his story. His story. His story. It is his, capital H-I-S, his story, Yahweh's story. It's the greatest love story that has ever been written in heaven or earth, relating to his people Jacob, Israel. With a new marriage that is coming. And you're all part of this. Those who know Yahweh, understand who he is, follow his law, statutes, commandments, and ordinances, turn and ask forgiveness, and you start living a whole new life. Stop being an alcoholic. Stop being a drug user. Stop using that F word, every fifth word in your conversation. Start to shave and clean up. Wash your dirty clothes and start looking human. Go out and get a job, you guys, instead of letting the women support you. I mean, is it epidemic? Of course it's epidemic in this country. Next, please.